and welcome to Connected, episode 361. It's made possible this week by our sponsors, Squarespace, Pingdom, and Hello. My name is Stephen Hackett. I'm joined by Mr. Myke Hurley.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for holding down the fort this summer. You have been the constant on Connected.
Did I take one off?
You took one.
Yeah.
One off.
One off, but you two have been all over the place. Federico is away this week. So Federico, in case you don't know, he writes a review of iOS and iPadOS every year.
What?
And yeah, I know, right? Shocker. Breaking news. And Federico came to us this week and asked if we would be cool holding the fort for him because he's in the final stretch now of writing that review. And he's obviously been pretty distracted with all the Club Mac Story stuff. So Federico's down in a bunker now writing his iOS and iPadOS review. So he's taking a week off the show this week, and he should be back next week.
We have some follow-up.
Yeah, I would like to apologize to most countries of the world. You know, I upset some people. First off, I would like to apologize. I've provided individual apologies to basically all of our Brazilian listeners for suggesting that Brazilian people spoke Spanish when they in fact speak Portuguese. So I'd like to apologize for that. Kosovo. Now, remember we had a Kosovo problem last time where we had a listener, Blend, who was from Kosovo, but I said we had 0 Kosovo listeners. Kosovan listeners. Here we go. I'm doing it again. Kosovo can also be known as Serbia. But it has declared independence from Serbia, but is only partially recognized worldwide. So that might be why our hosting provider doesn't recognize there's Kosovo, because maybe our hosting provider hasn't got that data. I don't know. This is maybe too much for us to try and get into. Feels pretty murky, but it could be why we show a 0 for Kosovo. I did check, though, and we had 10 listeners from Serbia. So if they were being counted into Serbia's data, maybe that would mess it up. I apologize to Blend, but unfortunately, it's not up to us to decide which countries are recognized.
Yeah, that sounds complicated for this podcast.
This is incredibly complicated, and I almost wish we hadn't done this follow-up because I'm almost convinced I will now have more follow-up. This is basically Green Gate, but for global politics, which is much more.
Gate.
If we do this segment in the future, listener James suggested calling it the Raremies, which I enjoyed.
Oh, that's good.
Which I really enjoyed. My suggestion was the Weirdies, as we were ultimately finding the weirdest listener, but the Raremies is better.
The Raremies is very good.
So I think we will come back to this at some point, especially because now somebody has been given the nod of weirdest fish. Now that Umar is the weirdest fish, lots of other people want to be weird, right? So we put this call out and we gave people enough time, but all week I've been getting tweets from people who are like, "Hey, I'm from this country. Is that weirder?" Right. Well, you had your time, right? It's not up to us. You had your opportunity.
Well, listen to the show the week it comes out, is what we're saying.
No, they were like, "Oh, I just didn't do it. I just didn't send it in." I was like, "Well, this isn't, you know what I mean?" Well, you were lazy, or you didn't think you were weird enough. Believe in your weirdness. It is very likely that at some point next summer we will come back to the Raremies because it was a great way to fill half of a show.
And it was very enjoyable to listen to. I made Mary listen to it. I was like, "You got to hear this." And
I actually listened back to that segment in full, which is a rarity for me to do, because I wanted to see how it came out. I also wanted to just be completely aware of how many people I could have upset accidentally. In episode 3, so this is some follow-up from Darren. So we got some from listener Darren. In episode 360, you were hoping to have a listener in space. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite do that, but I did go and listen to Connected inside both a Soviet space station hull, the Almaz 206, and a VA space capsule, which are part of a museum collection. And Darren has sent in an image for us of proof of that. The image that I have put in our show notes is the wrong one.
Yeah.
And so I just got a bit of a shock when I opened that, and I don't know what happened. I need to correct that, Stephen. I can only apologize to you. I don't know why this has happened. I think there's some kind of horrific virus inside of our S3 bucket, which is just an image of your face. So we've got that going on.
Maybe.
I will find this image.
Okay.
And then, okay. I
believe it was an email.
To me. Yeah,
it was an email.
So let me get it. Okay. Let me get it now.
Okay. I'll let you go deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was so scary.
It was scary. last week y'all also spoke about Tim Cook and his time at the company.
Mm-hmm.
And, 10-year anniversary, he's been there a while. Tim Cook has made comments before about, I think, he's not going to be at Apple forever. Gurman chimed in, speculating that Tim would retire between 2025 and 2028 sometime. And apparently he wants to oversee one more major product category introduction. And I don't think you have to guess that would probably be something AR focused. He talks a lot about it, seems very passionate about having charts and meetings in space. And so maybe once we see that, then Tim's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this last time, right? That the Apple Watch is maybe the biggest product that Tim has overseen.
Oh, yeah.
But it isn't the change the world product that maybe you would want if you were Apple CEO, right? And so I expect he probably wants to give that another go and see if he can be at the helm of the company when they introduce their next paradigm shifting company. You can put the slide up of the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad up as much as you want, right? And talk about and this is the next one, but the market decides. And I don't think the market has decided. The Apple Watch is a very successful product. We're going to talk about it later on today. But it is not, it has not changed the world like those other ones that I mentioned. I have now found the image of Darren in a space capsule, which is very good. Do you see this? So Darren printed out a weird fish and you can also see he's listening to the episode, so it's good proof. And to up the weirdness factor, this all took place on the Isle of Man, which has a population of 85,000 people. It's weird. But Darren knows that doesn't make him lifetime weird, which is what we were looking for somebody to listen from space. This is good enough.
Space weird.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're Tim Cook and you want to be in the Hall of Fame that is the Mac, iPod, iPhone, iPad, and the watch doesn't get you there, I just don't see how AR is going to be the thing that pushes you into that. Am I just being pessimistic about AR? I feel like I am on general, but I just don't know.
I mean, he's really banking on this AR VR combination. So look, here's the thing, right? So let's just think of this a second. Let's talk about this a second. If Apple's creating a product, not the first one, right? The first one's a developer kit mostly, right? AR VR home use. If they are making AR glasses, right? The expectation is they will be in front of your eyes, right? You cannot escape them. It's not like the Apple Watch,
right?
Where it's this complementary thing. AR glasses would be a much more of a companion, I think, to other devices with the eventual goal of becoming something of its own. It does feel to me just in theory much more for good and ill invasive than an Apple Watch is. It's more maybe pervasive is a better word to use. In our lives in that sense, if it can truly give you that sci-fi idea of as you're walking around, you can be presented information that could be for some people a pretty big deal. I don't know. I mean, would we have necessarily assumed that the iPhone was going to be as big as it ended up being? I don't think so.
I don't think anyone did. I don't think Apple did, honestly.
No, it was just here is a really much nicer experience for using a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then it was the apps that was what truly made it what it is. So maybe they can do it again. I don't know either, but I think if you're looking at what's on the horizon for Apple, what areas they have to tackle, I mean, it's not going to be the car, right? That's the other area. The car's not going to be that thing because even if they make an incredible car, it's going to be really expensive. And so it's not going to be something that everybody owns, like everybody owns a smartphone or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, Apple's best products have been the ones that democratize technology, right? Where all of a sudden the computer is accessible to you through something like the mouse and pull-down menus. You don't have to be using punch cards like Dr. Drang did. Or the iPod, making music accessible to everybody, right? That's Apple at its best. And that's really kind of where I come back to the AR question. Is like, is that going to be for everyone? I mean,
it could be closer to an iPod in its success than an iPhone, but that would still be enough.
Oh yeah, the iPhone is still like so far above and beyond, and even AirPods. You know, so much of what he has done, or what Apple has done, I should say, is pivoting off the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Apple Watch can only be as big as the iPhone market as long as they continue to tie it to iOS the way they have. AirPods are the same way, right? Like, yes, I'm sure there are people using AirPods products with non-iPhones, but it can't be many. And I don't know. And
I guess, AirPods are probably his most successful product line, right?
Yeah.
But they're not, it's not like the big new,
it's an accessory.
You're not putting it on that slide that
Right.
I was mentioning earlier, right? Of like, here's Apple's history.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going on there.
Yeah, it's fair. Anyways, Tim Cook, hang around for a little longer.
We'd like that.
Myke, today, September 1st.
Hooray!
Know what that means?
It means that the podcast-a-thon's getting closer and closer is what it means.
That is true in a very troubling way.
Yeah.
But September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, something that we mark and celebrate every year here at Relay FM. And the reason we do that is because of the work of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. There'll be a link in the show notes to a thing that I wrote today. My oldest son was diagnosed with cancer as an infant. They found a brain tumor, and he's getting ready to turn 13, and he has officially moved from cancer patient to cancer survivor because of the work at St. Jude. In fact, if you look at the overall childhood cancer survival rates, they are way, way higher than they were 60 years ago when St. Jude first opened its doors. And it's not just kids in Memphis. You know, we were fortunate to already live here. It's our home. But they treat kids from all over the world, and their research is shared all over the world to increase cancer survival rates in kids in all corners of the earth. So we take this seriously. We spend a lot of time and energy on this every fall because it is really important to us. And every year, the Relay community has been absolutely amazing in helping raise money for St. Jude.
Yep.
So you can donate now. We're already over $80,000, and it's just September 1st. We've been talking about this for 2 weeks now, and it'll run through the end of September. You know, September is a time where a lot of us are going to spend a lot of money on tech, right? Like, I'm going to order a new iPhone this month and maybe a watch. And it's a time where a lot of us in this sort of community are spending money, and set some of that aside and make it really count. So you can go to stjude.org/relay and donate. And that money goes to not only this research and treatment, but families don't pay anything for that treatment. So our son has been a St. Jude patient for 12 years, and they've never charged me a single dime. That's incredible, because that is really best in world care. And because it is just given to us, we could focus on our family and focus on our kid, which is what's most important. So make that possible for more families, stjude.org/relay.
I think I first heard Casey mention this about which I kind of like it, that donating to St. Jude during this time is guilt absolution for buying expensive technology products. And I'm into that idea. So you don't have to feel so guilty about spending $1,000 on your phone if you make a nice donation to St. Jude as well.
Look, last year I put wheels on my Mac Pro, and I donated the same amount to St. Jude to offset it.
Yeah. We got some streams coming up, actually, on that note. Do you want to tell people what you're doing?
Yeah, so on Thursday, September 2nd, I will be taking apart my Next Cube. I don't know how the Next Cube comes apart, so we're just going to figure that out together. And that'll be on my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/ISMH.
Yeah, and this is part of, we do these milestones. So as we hit different fundraising levels, we unlock extra content. And that is typically in the form of me and you doing silly things on stream. also another one on Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on my Twitch channel, Myke.live. We're going to be playing Kerbal Space Program, which is a game that neither of us have played. I've had a very short amount of time in the tutorial, and our plan is to try and leave Earth's orbit. That's the plan. We're going to get out into space on a rocket ship, of which we have been told multiple times now is probably an unattainable goal, and we're going to prove everybody wrong, and we're going to go to space.
I mean, we've done so well in Flight Simulator.
Exactly. I landed, so no one thought I was going to be able to do that. I successfully landed a jumbo jet, so...
Yeah, you did. You did do that.
And this is all leading up to the podcast-a-thon on September 17th from 12 to 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/RelayFM. We're going to be doing a bunch of wild, fun, incredible things with a whole host of guests. Many of your favorite Relay FM hosts are going to be taking part as well, as we always do. We got a lot of stuff going on. I received just a huge box a couple of days ago full of questionable things that we're going to be using as part of the podcast-a-thon this year. So you're going to check that out. It's going to be an excellent time. Good.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll keep talking about it, but please go learn more and donate, stjude.org/relay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Myke, we're going to talk about iPhones from space, but let's take a break.
Yeah, it's not just us going to space. iPhones are going to do it too.
Tim Cook, going to space. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Squarespace. Oh, it fits right in with what we're talking about.
It's always a circle, well, a square. It's just space. It's all space.
In space, no one can hear you build a website. But Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your online presence and run your business, whether you're here on the ground or, I guess, in low Earth orbit. You can do it there too. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, they have everything you need. They combine cutting-edge design with world-class engineering, making it easier than ever to establish your home online and to make your ideas a reality. Squarespace has everything you need to create a beautiful, modern website. You start with a professionally designed template and use drag and drop tools to make it your own, customizing the look and feel, the settings, the products you have on sale, so much more with just a few clicks. And all Squarespace websites are optimized for mobile. Your content automatically adjusts so it'll look great on any device. You'll get free unlimited hosting, top-of-the-line security, and the dependable resources that you need to succeed. There's nothing to patch or upgrade. Their 24/7 customer support is award-winning. So if you have any questions, someone is always around to help. Lets you quickly and easily grab a unique domain name. Plus, they have tools for SEO and email marketing as well. I've used Squarespace a whole bunch over the years, and it is my go-to when helping somebody build a website for a company or a project, whatever it may be. That is always my answer because you can do so much with it just right out of the box. So head on over to squarespace.com/connected for a free trial with no credit card required. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code CONNECTED to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain name and to show your support for the show. Once again, that's squarespace.com/connected and the code CONNECTED to get 10% off your first purchase. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of Connected and all of Relay FM.
Ming-Chi Kuo has reported that the next iPhone would feature low Earth orbit LEO satellite communication capabilities. This basically allows for an iPhone to make calls or send messages without any cell coverage. It's connecting to satellites instead. Kuo expects this technology could also expand to other products that Apple makes in the future. I think we had a conversation about this a couple of days ago, just me and you. It wasn't a podcast conversation. We do actually have those. And this seemed like an absolutely bonkers idea that I would never pay any attention to if it didn't come from Ming-Chi Kuo, right? It would just be like, this doesn't make any sense. Why is this happening? I don't understand. Who's providing all of this? It kind of reminded me of the way Kindles used to, I don't even know if they still work this way, but how you would get like 3G on them. It's just like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it for you.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's just like paid for somehow.
Yeah. And I had a Kindle. So this is a fun story, side story. The Kindle 2, I think, was the first Kindle that was released outside of America. This is when they got rid of the weird keyboard.
Yeah.
And I bought one of those. They made them available to the United Kingdom. But the cell service was roaming.
Huh.
So it was still provided by like Verizon or whoever it was, but it was roaming. So whenever I would use the cell service, the battery would just, it just did not deal very well, and it took a really long time to download anything.
I'm
So
sure.
it was on a roaming plan. They actually didn't do a deal with a UK carrier at first, so super strange. Anyway, so I wouldn't have believed this, and then Mark Gurman also doubled down on it and reported, expanding, saying that this would ideally be intended for emergency calling and reporting. So this is a quote: "The first component, dubbed emergency message via satellite, will let users text emergency services and contacts over a satellite network when there's no cell signal available. That feature will be integrated into the Messages app as a third protocol alongside the standard SMS and iMessage, and appear with gray message bubbles instead of green or blue. The second feature will be a tool to report major emergencies, such as plane crashes and sinking ships, also using satellite networks." It's very niche.
I mean, yeah, I believe it because these sources are good at this sort of thing, but definitely not something I think most people are ever going to need to use. Hopefully. I hope I never have to use it.
Yeah, but it's like, if you have to, you maybe be happy that it's there, right? But it is an interesting feature for sure. It's expected that this would be included in the iPhone 13, but the feature will come later. And this reminded me of like the UWB chip, right? Like the U1 chip or whatever they call it. Like, it didn't really do anything until the AirTags became a thing. Apparently Apple have considered using satellites of their own, of course, right? But have decided to rely on existing infrastructure. The Bloomberg report mentioned this company, it's like Global Networks or something is their name, and their stock like jumped after this because the week before, because there are a few companies that do this, the week before they had said that they had entered into an agreement with an unnamed company.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And because it's like they had to report it or something in their earnings, and they couldn't say who. And then one or two other companies said it wasn't them. And there's like limited companies that can do this, so it's expected that it's this one company. It's unlikely that this feature will be available everywhere after launch. There are local restrictions and stuff, and also just coverage. And Apple will also developed a UI inside of iOS that will like tell people like, hey, move around, move over here until you get a signal kind of thing. Because this stuff isn't like instantly available everywhere.
Right.
And this also kind of isn't satellite internet either.
Right. This is not Starlink, so you can get rid of AT&T. This seems like a emergency pull cord type break glass kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a really weird niche feature. So here's the thing that I find particularly peculiar about this as well, is like the timing of it. So Mark Gurman's report also references that they will probably be using a Qualcomm chip like for the modem for this. Even though Apple is known to be developing their own modems, right? Like, this is a thing. They got into that deal. You may remember they like settled that deal with Qualcomm, right? And said that they would use their licensing for X amount of years or whatever. And then also bought Intel's modem business so they could make their own modems for the future, right? Because they don't want to be tied to Qualcomm. That was why they were having that dispute in the first place. Apple thought that they didn't want to pay all of their, or should believe they shouldn't have to have paid all the licensing fees. So it's intriguing to me to launch this feature, which I don't know if anyone's asking for, right? Before you have your own modems, when you are probably also working on it as well. Like, it just maybe seems like this would be something to wait and do at the time when you can do it, rather than now adding in this complexity. So they now have added in something that they have to replace before they can ship their own modems, because they can't take this feature away now that they add it into the phone, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if this makes it more complex to ship their own modem system, they have now only made it harder for themselves to do that.
I mean, or they're on the road and they know that, okay, in 2 years, we'll be able to move to our own.
Yeah, but then it makes me wonder, like, why not just wait? Like, this feature specifically, I don't know. And, you know, and there's always the story, right? And sometimes just the story of it is enough. Like, it's a feature they can add, so they add it. And, like, I personally go back to the blood oxygen meter in the new Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much utility that really has had for most people. Like it feels like it is not as useful as many of the other sensors. I have no doubt some people have had their lives saved, right? This is always the thing that happens, no doubt. But for most, it would be the same with this, right? There would be a couple of lives saved.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a mass market feature, that's for sure, right? But like the blood oxygen thing, you can put it in an ad as well. So it's a feature you can add that might help some people, but also it ends up being a cool marketing thing, and that's probably a reason to do it. But it does give me that pause of wondering if they're making it more complicated for themselves to move over to their own modems.
Maybe. Are they fully on their own modems for 5G yet? I don't know where that stands.
No, it's all Qualcomm.
It is.
Apple's got none of their own modem technology.
Yeah, they just bought Intel's business, right? And they're assumedly working on that.
Yeah, they were working on it anyway, and then the main reason they bought Intel's business is so they could get patents of their own, because this was the problem that they were having with Qualcomm.
Yeah. Patents are bad.
I'm worried, though, like for the future, that this is going to cause Apple some issues just because they are annoyed about having to pay licensing fees to Qualcomm. Like they will switch over, and then everybody's cell service is going to be worse, and then we're all paying for their weirdness.
The Apple Maps of cellular radios is what you're saying.
You know what? Yes, that's the kind of exact thing I'm talking about. But this would be way worse because you can't get a third-party cell radio.
Someone makes like a lightning adapter. It's like,
oh my god, that would work. Yeah, that's what Qualcomm's working on. They're going to give you just put it in a special case. It's just very conductive.
I mean, we'll know soon enough. It's going to be iPhone time here.
It's a few years. It's going to be for this particular feature.
Yeah.
They might not mention it.
Yeah, but did they mention the ultra wideband, or did that just get shown up? Did that show up in like the iFixit teardown?
I don't think they mentioned it.
I think it just showed up,
it.
and then maybe they confirmed it. I think
it, because then it came out. I think it was given to press about like, there's a new like AirDrop feature that I swear has never worked for anyone. I still don't know what it was meant to have done, but that was meant to be a thing. Remember, you'd be able to point your phone at someone and then it would share files, but it just never really seemed to work.
Well, we're talking about things that plug into things.
Yeah.
A couple of interesting Mac accessories have popped up. One I sent to you because you have a 24-inch iMac. People may remember them. They had a Kickstarter like in 2016 when the USB-C MacBook Pros first showed up, like basically like a mega dongle that plugged into the side of it. But they have two new USB-C hubs designed for that M1 iMac, and they sort of grip it at the bottom and give you ports around front, which is a great place to have ports on a computer.
Yeah, we both have our iMac Pros. They make a version for the iMac Pro of this type of thing, right? Is it them?
It's somebody.
Or is it Satechi?
It's Satechi makes the one that you have on your iMac Pro, and I used to.
So it's just basically putting ports on the front. I wanted to buy one of these just to see what it was like, but they don't ship to the United Kingdom.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's Brexit, man. A bunch of companies just don't bother anymore. It's like too much hassle.
We don't know those people on that small island.
Because I was just wondering how well did they actually color match? Because they give you, it was just weird as well. It's just like just to deal with their logistics. You get a front cover for all the colors. Of iMac, and you can swap them around. It's a bit heavily branded for my liking with the Hyper logo on the front. I would maybe prefer not to have that. But I was intrigued, and plus it is cool to have these things at the front. But they don't ship to me, so I won't be trying it. I mean, I think I bought I buy products like this on Amazon every now and then. Like it'll probably come to Amazon at some point in the future.
Probably.
But so it's not happening right now.
Yeah, you would think someone else would do this. Yeah, Satechi has one.
The Satechi one.
For the regular iMac.
That's the one that like weirdly like just you stick it inside the fan vent, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sketch, but it's a good product.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've really enjoyed it. And
I forgot you don't have an iMac Pro, do you?
No.
You have to. Maybe they should make one that you can stick into the top of your Mac Pro. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have one of the small Cal digits on my desk, so I have some ports on my desk now. But I thought, well, why doesn't anyone make this for the Pro display? And then I remembered that it's just like USB 2 on the back. It's not Thunderbolt or anything, or anything faster. So that's a bummer.
They have two versions of this thing. They have one that they call the 6-in-1 and one that they call the 5-in-1. And it's very confusing the way that they've named them, because like it's not like the $79 6-in-1 gets one more port than the 5-in-1. They're like completely different configurations of ports.
Yeah.
So the 6-in-1 has a HDMI, a 10 gigabit USB-C, 2 USB-A, one SD card, and one micro SD card like port. And then the 5-in-1 has two 5 gigabyte USB-C, two 5 gigabyte USB-A or gigabit USB-A, and then one 7.5 watt USB-A, so it can do power. The other ones can't. It's very confusing, the choices, and also the fact that they're so incredibly different. I feel like they should be differently named, because the first one is very clearly for people that deal with images and video.
Right.
And then the second one is just standard adapting. And I feel like they could have done a better job and maybe name them as such.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I thought the same thing.
I kind of was looking at it and couldn't work out which one I wanted based on that.
Yeah. Well, you don't get either one, so.
No, I don't get either. Yeah.
Joke's on you.
The joke is on me, I suppose.
Also, something that popped up is the 12 South Stego Mini, which is
it's a baby hub.
It's a baby hub, and so
it's a tiny baby hub.
Yeah, you can plug it right into the side of an iPad or something with USB-C, and it gives you USB-A, HDMI, headphone audio out, and then another USB-C port, but just for power. That one doesn't get data. You can you just plug it right into your iPad, or you can have it on your desk. It comes with this little braided cable. I have the full-size Stego USB-C hub, and I really like it.
It's a very good, simple hub. Like it's just a good, like, can give you a few extra ports when you need them kind of hub, because it doesn't need to be powered like a lot of hubs do these days. But that's because it's not doing anything heavy lifting. It's not doing Thunderbolt or anything like that, the regular one. You just get HDMI, 3 USB ports, an Ethernet port, and that's it, and an SD and micro SD card readers. So it's like a nice little thing. I have it. I was using that a lot for my iPad Pro when I was using like a keyboard and mouse with my iPad Pro and putting it on a laptop stand. This was the hub that I was using for that. I think that the Stego Mini, that is feels like a good impulse buy. Put it in your backpack. Never think about it until you need it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is a cool little product. 12 South have been on a good run recently. Like they make that. I've been really, really happy with the iPad stand that they make. What is that one called? The Hoverbar Duo.
Oh yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, I really like that product. That is a very strong recommendation from me, the Hoverbar Duo. They make so many things now. Their website has become difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
12 South.
A lot of stuff.
They make a lot of stuff.
Yeah, lots of, like, if you just need like a stand or a weird accessory, they probably have you covered.
Didn't they make something really weird recently that you bought?
Me?
Not the candle, but something else.
Not the candle.
I remember the candle, but I thought they made another weird product recently.
Or
was it an April Fool joke?
They had an April Fool's joke, I think.
Okay.
It was the rock, right? Did they have the stone? Like we're off the beaten path now.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
It was like some sort of like, I remember it was a wireless charger, but it was made out of like polished stone or marble or something.
Oh yeah, that was it. It was, yes. And then they were trying to see if people would want it.
Yeah. There it is.
Here it is. Stoner, it was called. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's a MagSafe puck.
Yeah. The perfect place for iPhone 12 to charge and chill. That's what their copy says. Anyways, lots of fun little accessories. And you're building out a desk or something. It's always a fun time to look at these things.
Yep. Like you.
Yeah, I really want to move to my new desk.
Yeah, well, you can't.
Because I've calendar situations.
Yes. Look, this is a bed that you've made for yourself.
I know.
The new desk is possible because the calendar's success.
Yes.
You need to wait. You need to package the calendars, then you can move into the new area.
This episode of Connected is also made possible by Pingdom from SolarWinds. Today's internet users expect a fast web experience. No matter how targeted your marketing content is or how sleek your website may be, people are going to leave the page is loading too slowly. Look, we all do it. We all are guilty of this. But if you're using real-time, real user monitoring from Pingdom, you can discover how your website's performance is affecting your visitors' experience, so you can take action to fix things before your business is impacted, all for as low as just $10 a month. Whether your visitors are dispersed around the world, across browsers, devices, and platforms, Pingdom helps you identify bottlenecks, troubleshoot performance, and make informed optimizations. Real user monitoring is an event-based solution, so it's built to scale. That means you can monitor millions of page views, not just sampled data. You can get the real data, all at an affordable price. So get live site performance visibility today with real user monitoring from Pingdom. Go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now for a 30-day free trial with no credit card required. And when you're ready to buy, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to get an awesome 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom from SolarWinds for the support of the show and Relay FM.
I was going to let you start this one.
Oh, I was going to let you start this one.
It's your topic. I don't really...
Yeah, but then I thought you could introduce the topic and then hand it to me.
Okay, all right, okay. So you mentioned your new desk.
Mm-hmm.
That desk is inside of a structure called the Pod Cabin, which I named and you've stolen and never credited me.
No, it wasn't. Was it you?
Yeah, I came up with that.
I knew it came from the internet, but I wasn't sure who.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was from me in our super secret text channel because I have the Podcastle here.
Do you? Is that what it's
which
called?
Is what that's the structure that I have built inside of my studio. Was named on my Twitch stream as the Podcastle because they can see it behind me when I'm streaming. So this is like these huge blankets, these like soundproof blankets and things that I've got in this little cocoon that I'm in right now. Anyway, so the Pod Cabin, and the reason that I named it as such is that your studio now looks like a cabin.
Yes.
Which is beautiful. It looks beautiful. How are you deciding to protect the incredibly expensive Mac collection that only you care about inside of that building?
A dragon.
Oh, great. Do you want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, who's next?
Doesn't seem like it'd be a tech topic, but there you go.
It's technologically quite difficult to look after a dragon.
It's not as hard as you would think. You just put an air tag on them and listen for screaming, and that's how you know where they went.
Speaking of air tags... We're going to get back to this topic eventually, but you started this. So I've installed iOS 15 on my phone now. I feel like now is the time to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the studio, and I went out to get a coffee, and my phone was like, hey, you left your bag behind.
Oh, yeah.
So this was my introduction to this new feature of AirTags and all devices letting you know when you leave the place where they are. So it's easy with home because it sets that up on its own. So if you if you leave your home, it's not going to say, hey, you left your Mac at home.
Right.
But because I have also this studio space where I also leave stuff, it's just good though because you can add this in. You can do it on a product by product basis or for all products, where you're like, don't tell me if I don't alert me if I leave this place and haven't taken this product with me, which is good. So now I've kind of set it so if I leave my iPhone at the studio, it's going to tell me, hey, you left your iPhone at the studio. But if I leave my backpack at the studio, it's not going to say, hey, you left your backpack at the studio. It's a cool feature though. So it's the idea you get disconnected from your AirTag or a device that's in the Find My app. It's going to be like, hey, you forgot it.
Yeah, I turned that off for the one that's in my truck because I don't need to know when I go inside my house every time that my truck's on the street.
The truck is going to be a particularly difficult one because you're always leaving it and it's not in the same place.
Like every time you go in the grocery store, it's like, hey, your Tacoma's parked at so-and-so. I was like, yeah, I know. I drove it there and I parked it there. Mm-hmm. I put a picture of the Pod Cabin in the show notes if you haven't seen it.
So you can see why it's called the Pod Cabin.
It is very cabiny. So I've had Nest cameras for years, really, and I wanted one for this space, looking out. So if anyone approaches it, I can let the dragon free. And the problem I had is I didn't want to have to drill into the new pod cabin to run power, from the outside to the inside for a Nest camera, because up until very recently, all Nest cameras were hardwired to power. They didn't have a battery option for an exterior camera. But maybe like a month ago, they announced a battery-powered exterior Nest camera. I thought, great. I can mount this thing on the outside of the building. I can keep an eye on things. I'm already in the Nest ecosystem. It's going to work great. So ordered one. It came in. The install is really easy. You basically just put like this mounting plate on the building and then it attaches it with magnets. Maybe it's too easy to install, but they say they'll replace it if it's stolen. So that's nice.
Oh, you can't lock it?
Uh-uh.
How long does the battery last on these things?
I don't know, because it didn't stay up very long, which I'm getting to.
Okay, like you didn't notice, it didn't say like, hey, it's just a 6-month battery or whatever. It's not even there.
No, it's a rechargeable thing, and it comes with this little, kind of like a little MagSafe puck, actually, that it charges on.
Huh.
They may say on their website how long the battery is, but so anyways, get it, set it up, install it, and right away realize that this new Nest camera doesn't work with the Nest app.
Good.
Which is like, I guess Google now considers legacy. You have to use the new Google Home app for the new cameras. The problem is the Google Home app is bad. It really lacks almost all the options and settings that are in the old Nest app. And that this new camera doesn't even show up in the old Nest app. It has no idea this camera exists. Mm-hmm. It does seem like the Android version is farther along, and Google, for months now, has made promises that it's going to make it like feature parity with the Nest app, and they haven't done it. So that was a real bummer. I was like, well, I don't want to have like one camera in one app and the other couple in another app. I was like, well, I'll just move everything into the Home app, and that's when I realized like, oh, it's lacking a lot of settings and control that I want to have.
The Google Home app.
The Google Home app. Yes. Yeah. All these companies have products the same name. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
There's also some other issues, particularly with the new crop of Nest cameras. This one is 1080, not 4K, like the some of the other Nest cameras are. I assume that's a battery life deal. It's like way less data to process.
Okay, makes sense.
There's also no web live stream. So on the wired Nest cameras, you can go to home.nest.com and look at your camera feed. Can't do that with this.
Wait.
There's no way to manually pull clips for saving offline.
Well, I have to stop you a second.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't view it live, what is the point?
Right, exactly. You can view it live in the app, but not on the web.
Oh, okay. Then that's not so much of a problem. Okay.
Right. But this camera is not... So all the wired Nest cameras, you can have them running all the time, which is how mine are. So I can look back over the last 30 days and I have 24-hour coverage of, like, say, looking out my front door. But this battery-powered one doesn't do that. And so that was all... It was all just one bummer after another. And I sort of had this realization, I tweeted the other day, that I've never felt more punished for buying into an ecosystem than I do with Nest. Because they not only have been very slow to roll out new hardware, like almost every other company in this field has a battery-powered exterior camera, which is like, it's great for outside, right? Like, so you don't have to run power or like cut a hole in your house and run a cable through your attic, right? It's just very clean.
Yeah.
But they're super late to it. The new Google Home app is just not very useful. The Nest app, the old Nest app, is cluttered, but at least everything's there that you could need. And they just keep promising that stuff is going to happen, and it keeps not happening. And they don't necessarily even stand by their old products. So years ago, they were going to drop support for like the original drop cam, which is what Nest started as, and I guess they got bought by anyways. That was discontinued. The Secure, which I use in my office, like a keypad and motion sensors and stuff, also discontinued. And I just kind of realized, like, why am I like, I have a chance to start over, like in this new, expanded building, and why am I putting up with this ecosystem where like Google has just fumbled Nest so badly?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really pretty shocking how badly they've managed it.
Yeah, like the meta thing here is that like Google tried a couple of times to do something with Nest. Like remember, like Nest was a company on its own, and they did thermostats. Then Google bought them and did a bunch of stuff with them, and then tried to increase the offering. Then they decided they were going to integrate it into Google, and then decided, no, that was a bad idea. We're going to spin it back out as Nest again because people don't trust us with Google. Like that was one of the main reasons. It was like a brand thing. Like people didn't necessarily trust Google with their home security system.
Yeah.
So then they put it back out into Nest again. And so they keep going around and around. But then you would have to ask yourself, why do they insist that you put all of the Nest products in the Google Home app, right? As you say.
Yeah.
Which is just really frustrating, especially if they don't fully support all of the stuff, new and old, in the same system.
Yeah, it is definitely frustrating. And so
yeah,
I kind of took took all this in. I was like, you know what? I know like basically other people in my family are all using Ring stuff at home. I know you're using Ring in your studio.
Yep.
I was like, well, let me give this a shot in the office. And I know like Ring is a very complicated company to talk about. They have the same problem Nest does, that they're owned by a much bigger company that some people don't trust. They were really late to end-to-end encryption. They have had a lot of like political, social issues with like data being reported to police departments and stuff. Like I know it's a complicated company to talk about. And I've only had this stuff for like 4 or 5 days, but going through the app, you can turn a bunch of that off.
It seems like these days there isn't a tech company that doesn't report stuff to the police.
That's true.
Like, this is just a thing that happens now. It's like the tech companies are as much a law enforcement as anybody else at this point.
We saw that with the CSAM stuff with Apple,
yes,
right?
That's one of the things I'm exactly referencing, right? Like that's what I'm thinking about. Like where it's in a lot of this stuff is like when it's done right, it's the right thing to do. The problem is it isn't always the right thing to do. So it's very murky.
But in setting it up, it seems like you can really customize the privacy stuff maybe a lot more than you used to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked up their combined outdoor spotlight thing. It's like 2 lights and a camera in the middle.
This is Ring, right?
Ring, yes.
Yeah.
And the Bezos light, as I've called it. And it was really easy to set up. Their app is like so customizable. You can really,
I would say to a fault.
It can be fiddly, I think.
It's pretty confusing sometimes to realize what, like for me. So I have the full like Ring security system. So like it's got like a hub, and I've got sensors for doors and windows, and a couple of cameras, like the whole 9 yards, right? Because that's what I wanted for the studio. I wanted like my own internet controlled security system.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was buying this, this was basically my only option for anything half decent. And I was not into this, like, just get a home bridge bot. Like, no, right? Because I did try that once, and it was a friggin' disaster.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to trust that with a security system. Plus, I wanted the whole, like, monitoring system, that you can get with these things. Especially one of the things I actually really like about Ring is the box has a 3G card in it. So if I lost power, it still can communicate.
Yeah.
So
It's got a battery as well.
It's got a battery and 3G in it, which is just like, I think, that whole like package I just think is really interesting. I've forgotten my point now. I apologize.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean...
But when I was setting it up, it's like trying to get the cameras and when I want them to notify me and in what modes and stuff. Like it takes a while, and there's still stuff that I'm not sure I got completely the way that I wanted. But on the flip side, you can also be very particular. So like I have a sensor on the back door in the studio, which will always sound the alarm, even if I'm in it.
Yeah. Like that should not ever go off.
It shouldn't, because the door should never be opened. So
it all ties in really well to each other. And I agree with you. The app can be fiddly, but compared to something like the Google Home app, which has basically very few settings in it, is kind of a sense of relief. So I'm kind of going down this road, and I think over time I will eventually replace the Nest stuff with Ring stuff. As stuff like this goes on sale And so, for instance, my dad's like whole house is outfitted with Ring. And he's like, when he was in Costco and they had a 3-pack of cameras or door sensors, he would just get them and add them, So it is nice that you can kind of build it up over time. And so far I've been happy with, again, it's just out here in the studio, but even in this sort of limited test, it's been pretty good.
You got a little Echo thing too, right? Echo Show thing?
I did. It came with one of the, I think with the security, like the base station, the Echo Show 5, which is adorable. It is really adorable. It's like this little, it's like a smartphone Echo Show. And I could pull the camera feed up on it, and I have the Echo Assistant, which I haven't had in a long time because we're all HomePod in the house, and my family prefers that. And I have a HomePod out here. But I was like, I would like something that I could just pull up the camera feed and just like keep an eye on it, if I'm expecting a delivery or something.
No, that is cool. Like if I had, because all my security stuff here is internal, right? I don't have anything external. If I had something external, I would probably also want one of those so you could watch the camera feed whenever you wanted.
Yeah.
And like, again, like I just want to underscore like a point that I think we're both trying to make. Like, I know it is getting somewhat possible for you to like start stringing this stuff together on your own. Like I have a friend who just bought a bunch of those cameras. They like the Arlo cameras, the company that Anker owns. You can get a whole thing and you can hook them all up. I don't know if they have outside. It might just be inside, but you can like hook them all up, and it's like you have it all stored locally, and the app can ping you when there's motion detected and all that kind of stuff, and it has no service to it. And like, if that's your bag, go for it. But that isn't always what people want, and I don't want that. I want there to be a service that is monitoring this place, so that if I am not here, or if I need the help, or if like I don't answer the notification, that someone can check on this and call the authorities if needed. Like, if this studio gets broken into, I am in trouble. Right? Like, I have a lot of gear here. It's worth a lot to me. I want to have like a full-on thing. Okay, so the person I was talking about has outed themselves. It was James Thompson. He set up a family member's house, and they have outside and inside cameras with the Arlo system. And like I said to him, like, that is cool for you, like if it's what you want. But that's not what I want. And like I wanna pay. There are some things where I want to pay someone for it, and this is one of those things. I want to pay, and I want to pay a security company like a fee, so that if something goes wrong, we are under contract, right? Like, now you have to replace it, repair it, deal with it, as opposed to me being the security administrator and the tech administrator and all that kind of stuff, Yeah,
I feel the same way about my office space. And you can do, like you said, some of this is coming to other places. I know David Sparks is big into like the HomeKit secure video stuff, but I tend to think about this the way that you think about it. It's like, I want something watching over this, right? So I signed up for the thing, and you can put an emergency contact in there. Like, it's all really well thought through, and that's really what kills me about Nest is like they were so early to this, right? I mean, you could buy Nest cams for years it was kind of like the only thing worth it on the market.
Yep.
And they just have let it all go.
This is why Google bought them, right? Because they were doing something and they were making really good-looking stuff that worked well, and it was cool and people liked it. So Google were like, oh, we'll take a slice of that. But so much as Google does, they buy something and they don't know what to do with it, or they mess it up.
So it has been disappointing to see that unfold. But trying this out, and I'll probably check it back in, down the road sometime. But so far, I've been really impressed with it.
It's the Anker Eufy, not Arlo. I don't know if Arlo is a thing or if I just made that up in my brain.
Arlo's another camera company, I believe.
Okay. EUFY.
Yeah, that's what Sparks uses.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I know that these have, or at least will have the HomeKit thing, but I also don't want to do that, the HomeKit secure video thing. Like,
no, I don't either. And maybe it's better, but last time I tried a HomeKit camera, because I have one of those Logi Circles. Remember, it was like one of the first ones. I bought one and then we talked about it on the show. Talk about lack of control over when things notify you. It was a nightmare. And I've even thought, like, maybe I bring the Ring stuff in via Homebridge, but I don't even think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to let it kind of live in the Ring app.
Don't, man. It was a mess. I don't recommend it. I really don't. I know people have had good experiences with Homebridge, but like I've had very bad experiences with Homebridge. You just kind of got to wait yourself out a little bit longer, a couple of years or two, and it'll all be accessible via that Matter standard somehow.
Yeah.
But like, look, I have a bunch of HomeKit products here at the studio and at home. Every couple of days, one of them gets lost somewhere, right? Like no response on the light. Or like one device can't find one of my Hue lights, but the other device can. I'm not going to trust my home security camera to the system. Like I'm not going to do that. I don't trust that it will work well enough. It's like I ask my HomePod, turn off the lights, and it's like, oh, I can't find the internet. Mm-hmm. But then my phone, I just pull my phone out and I can turn them off from the control center. It's like I don't trust this system enough to now say, please watch over my home in case I'm burgled.
I think that's totally fair. This episode of Connected is brought to you by Hello. Hello makes incredibly comfortable buckwheat pillows. These are really different than regular fluffy pillows. They don't collapse under your head and neck. You're not turning it over in the middle of the night to find the cool side because it's always cool. Because these things stay dry and cool because they breathe better. So you don't get all warm and sticky at night. You can also add or remove filling to suit your needs. So you can make it as tall as you want it or as short as you want it. You can really dial it in just the way you want. Buckwheat pillows are a bigger deal than you may think. They're very popular in all parts of the world, and they appear on pillow menus at fancy hotels. The ability to adjust and change the Hello is really what I appreciate about it. We've all had those nights where we're in a hotel or maybe staying, someplace we're not normally are, and the pillow's too tall or too short, and you wake up with a sore neck or something. There's no adjustment like that with Hello because you can really dial it in and get exactly what you want. I really recommend trying them out. Hello is made in the US of A with quality construction and materials. The certified organic cotton case is cut and sewn for durability, and the buckwheat is grown and milled in the United States. So you can try one of these for 60 nights, and if it's not for you, you can send it back for a refund. Head on over to hellopillow.com/connected right now to get your own buckwheat pillow. That's HULLO pillow, hellopillow.com/connected. And if you buy more than one, they have a special discount of up to $20 off depending on the size you're looking at. They have fast free shipping with every order, and 1% of their profits are donated to the Nature Conservancy. So give Hello a try. If you love it, keep it. If you don't, send it back. Head on over to hellopillow.com/connected. Our thanks to Hello for their support of the show and Relay FM.
So there's been a bit of hubbub around the next Apple Watch over the last few weeks. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to start with like a bit of a refresher as to kind of like what we know or believe is going to be happening for the Apple Watch going forward. So back in June, actually starting in May, John Prosser reported that the Apple Watch would get flat sides, smaller bezels, and that there would be a green option for the Apple Watch Series 7. Then in June, Mark Gurman corroborated this, right? Like with some of the basic stuff, like it's going to have a faster chip, it's going to do some new things, and it's going to have smaller bezels, flat sides as part of a design refresh. Then some sites, including Mac Rumors, got sent some images of a 45mm Apple Watch band. So this sent a lot of people in some areas of the internet that I'm in into a bit of a tizzy, I'll say, as they were convinced that none of their Apple Watch bands were going to fit anymore. And so I would like to just give people a reminder of the way that this stuff works. So remember, we've already done this once, right? We went from, 42 to 44?
It was 38, 42, and now 40, 44, I think.
Okay.
Is that right? The Discord will tell us if we're wrong about that. Apple Watch sizes are hard to remember.
There's been millimeter changes. But what we're talking about when Apple talks about the millimeter changes of the Apple Watch, it's the size of the screen. It's not the size of the watch.
Right.
So what is most likely to occur here is the watch's physical size is not going to change, so your bands won't need to be replaced. But the screen is going to get bigger if they flatten out the edges. because what they're going to do is they will just take, like, if you look at your Apple Watch, it will be basically what they did to the iPhone. The iPhone used to have rounded edges. What they did was they flattened the edges and expanded the screen out to get to that edge point, right? So kind of like the surface area of the iPhone screen or whatever went up, right? Because it no longer was dealing with like it being there and then the edges went around the side in a curve. It just flattened out and they brought the screen out. The same as what happened with the iMac, the same as what happened with the iPad, and on and on and on. They're going to do it with every other product they can. So your bands are going to work. That's going to be fine. You can take this. This is a Myke Hurley guarantee, right? Your bands are going to be fine. I'm willing to put my guarantee on the line here. Your bands are going to be fine. They're going to work. They're not going to change the sizes, physical sizes of the band attachments. But they are going to change the names of the watches again. So it will probably change to like 41 millimeters and 45 millimeters. Or 43 and 45, whatever. Yeah, 43 and 45 it will go to, rather than 42 and 44, which is what we have right now. And so, yeah, the screen's going to get bigger, so that will but I will say your watch will look bigger. When you look at your watch, it's going to look larger because the face is going to be larger. And this is again similar to how just watch design is done in general. You know, you say this is a 42 millimeter watch. It's measuring the watch face. What goes around, the adornments around the watch face are not included in the size. This is the same as phones, right? You know, we talk about like, this one is 6.7 inches. We're talking about the screen. You know, like if there's additional stuff around the outside, this is not the size. And this, again, right? iPads are the same. Macs are the same. We talk about them in their screen sizes, but their physical dimensions are typically bigger than their screen sizes, right? It's not like gets to the edge of the screen and then the thing just stops. So that's what's going to happen to the Apple Watch. 9 to 5 Mac had some renders of what they think this could look like. And it made me realize, I've been thinking about this, the Apple Watch is very overdue a design change. Very, very overdue.
Yeah, it's basically the same as day one.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, they made the screens bigger.
But that's it. That's not a design change, right? Like
No, it's still the Airstream trailer sort of vibe.
That footprint and like the way it looks, the round, chunky edges, like to me, it feels incredibly dated at this point. I mean, it's old. It's like 2015 this thing was shown off. Like, this is old now. It's like 7 years old nearly. 6 years, 7 years old. And I kind of like, I don't mean this to be mean, but like when I look at it now, it feels like kind of like Fisher Price to me compared to the rest of Apple's other products. It isn't sleek. It feels chunky and like rounded and like it's a safety watch, right? Like it's meant to bounce or something, you know? Like It's got that kind of look to me now. Like when I was thinking about this, preparing for today's episode, I was actually genuinely really surprised that it's taken them this long before they've changed the physical design of the Apple Watch.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at what has changed, it's been finishes, and it's actually gotten a hair thicker.
And as you say, the screen size has changed. Like little bits and bobs have changed, but like the overall silhouette has remained the same.
Yeah. And I think for what it's worth, these renders, which we can get into, it's basically bringing the flat side design of the iPad Pro and the iPhone 12, bringing that to the Apple Watch. And I think the combination of that and smaller bezels, it's really going to make this watch feel a lot more modern. And I think looking at this, if this is how they go, the old one is going to look really old to basically everybody else, right? Like I agree with you, but I think most people don't just like it just is an Apple Watch is what it is. But this is going to really change it up in terms of how it looks, and I think how it feels on your wrist potentially too. Even if it isn't actually thinner, things with flat sides tend to look thinner, I think, because
I think one of the reports actually suggested it will be a little bit thicker, but not in such a way that you would notice.
Because right now, like if you look, like I'm looking at my watch sort of head on, your eyes kind of follow the curve to the surface, and it's hard to define, okay, when am I on the side and then when am I on the top, right? And so, yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm curious, you are more into watches than I am. What do you feel about the flat sides? Like, do you like that look
Oh,
for a watch? You think it'd be weird feeling? Like, you know,
all
what do you
watches have them, right? Like regular watches don't have like these big curvy sides to them. Like, and I know people are concerned. They're like, oh, it's going to stab me. Like, don't worry. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, this is what watches look like. They have the face, and then it goes down, and then it comes to the bottom. And there'll be different chamfers, and, you know, there'll be some with different platforms and stuff. But every watch that I own has what I would consider to be flat sides. Like that Draplin watch that you own.
Yeah.
The edges are flat on it. I mean, the watch is round, right? But the edges are flat on the sides because it's sleek that way. You don't have more case than you need around the edge of the watch. Neither do you. You know, and a lot of watches have bezels, but that's like a design rather than required, right? In a lot of cases. So, like, I think that this is going to be a much nicer looking watch. I do not believe it will be uncomfortable to wear. I know that people won't be sure about that. And I get it. Like, if the main watch that you've worn in your life, which could be many of our listeners, is an Apple Watch, this isn't going to be, in my opinion, any less comfortable, right? Like, I move from watch to watch, and I never feel like any of my watches with flatter sides are like digging into me or whatever. So, I think that's going to be really fine. Like, do not worry about that. And I think this looks much sleeker. I think it's going to look potentially more like a computer watch than ever before. Mm-hmm. But they're never going to get away from that, so they may as well lean into it. Yeah. Like, in my perspective, they will not get away from this for as long as they refuse to make a circular one. Like, that is when they can actually make the Apple Watch look like a watch, I think, because I think that Samsung's watches look like watches.
Yeah, they do.
That are also computers because they're round. Right, I think I think it's a big difference. This is always going to look like a tiny phone because phones are square and rectangular, right? So it's going to have that look to it. But I think that this look is a much needed refresh. Like, obviously these renders aren't how it's going to look, but I would be very confident it's going to look really close to this. So this is the thing that I am most jazzed about when thinking about a new Apple Watch, is a new industrial design. Because watches are fashion, right? And Apple knows this because they give you new colors and new bands and new finishes every year. And so it is now, in thinking about it, which I have been for quite a bit over the last few days preparing for this episode, I am really surprised that we have never seen a different case design. Yeah. We've maybe had like 2 or 3 redesigns of the iPhone in that time.
3. I mean, really. I mean, well, 2 if you just talk about sides, because it came out at the same time as the iPhone 6. But since then, we had the iPhone 10, right, and then the 12. And so...
Yeah, so 2.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, for so long, I think it's less true now, but in the beginning at least, every new watch was so much better than the one before it, right? Speed-wise, like, I don't know the last time you used an original Apple Watch, but it is unbelievably slow in hindsight. And having that to deal with, I wonder if this was something that maybe they felt like we can't really do this until we are further along with the technology inside of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. They were focusing on the things that they immediately needed to focus on, and not having to design new internals to fit a new case design every couple of years probably helped them get the watch to the point that it's at now, right? It's one less thing to have to think about. Like, you just know this is the size, these are the dimensions, this is what we have to play with. But I think that the Apple Watch Series 6, to me, shown that they have run out of ideas for now, because I don't really feel like the Apple Watch Series 6 was a meaningful upgrade over the 5. Right. In the way that I think every watch had been before that one. I think it was the first one where it was like, I don't really know what they're selling me here. Like, this doesn't really make sense to me as a product that I would feel like I would need to upgrade to, even from like the Series 4 watch. Because like the Series 5 made sense, and if you didn't go for the Series 5, I don't know why you would then go for the Series 6, right? So I think maybe now is time, right? With Series 7, you can redesign. Because especially as a Wall Street Journal report talking about Series 8 and beyond, so the 2022 and beyond watch. So, if they're targeting for Series 8 to have more sleep tracking features, to detect different sleep patterns and sleep apnea. Apple is still working on a blood pressure sensor. Now, this is something that Samsung's most recent watches do, and it's obviously not not as good as a proper blood pressure monitor where you put in the cuff on and stuff. But there are like these electro wave patterns that you can use that if you get a baseline from somebody taking a reading on a proper machine and you input that baseline, it can calibrate it and then like can do some sensing. I don't know if this is what Apple's going to do, but maybe. But this, like, blood pressure is one thing. Blood glucose monitoring, something they're still working on. Putting a thermometer in the Apple Watch to help with fertility planning. They don't know when these are going to appear, but these are the areas that Apple's focusing on for health. And the Series 7, so this year's watch, is currently not expected to have any new health-related sensors.
So it's a new design driving the...
It feels like that they will use this as a year to say, hey, here's the new design. That's what we're doing with the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And then adding fuel to the fire, there have been rumors over the past few days from Nikkei in Asia, corroborated by Bloomberg, that there could be potential delays or shipment constraints, probably both, for this new Apple Watch as they are having some issues adjusting to the new design and manufacturer. I expect now, if this is the case, that we'll probably see the Apple Watch in October along with new Macs rather than September with new iPhones. And don't forget, last year was the first year that, and it set a precedent, the Apple Watch came out before the iPhone. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
They had the Apple Watch and iPad event first. Then they had the iPhone event after that, and then they had a Mac event after that in the fall. I don't remember if it came out, but it was at least shown off. So I could imagine them releasing the iPhone in September and maybe the Apple Watch a little bit later if it's not ready.
Last year was also the iPad Air, and then it shipped for a month until...
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what the...
Because it needed... What was it? The iPad Air had the chip that the iPhone was going to get, right? And then also it needed iOS 13.
So, yeah, the timeline definitely... It could be... like the iPad is like, oh, we have a new watch, and then it'll ship next month, right? And the phone is sooner. I mean, who knows? I do think, though, even if it's not a big change from a health sensor angle, you know, if people are buying an Apple Watch every 3 or 4 years, they're going to scoop up people who are on the Series 4, right? Maybe you had an original or a Series 1 or 2. You bought it when it got bigger, and now you're in the market again and you'll do a new design, right? And so maybe from that perspective, if you count the larger screen as a reason to upgrade, and I think it definitely could be, then having this now, I think, makes maybe a little more sense than waiting until you can also cram in a bunch of new sensors, right? Because...
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And also you have the expectation of putting a watch out every year. And so you got to be able to do that.
I think this was an upgrade. Somebody asked this question about, like, should the watch still be a year-over-year product? And I think that we might start approaching the point soon where it might become more tricky for them to do that.
I mean, if you talk about low-hanging fruit, there's not a ton of that left.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see it becoming an 18 months thing.
There's a lot of plans, right? Like, all these sensors would be amazing, but they're really hard to do and to do well. And the ramifications are much higher because you're dealing with people's health. So it can be, you know, you got to get it right. Like, but yeah, I think that it would make sense. And I think this would be a big, like, product that people would want because of the design. Actually, for the exact reason that you mentioned earlier, that people would see it and it would make their Apple Watches look really old.
Yeah, for something you wear every day, that's, you know, like you said, it's a fashion thing. And so I could see this if this design comes to pass, and I hope it does. I think it looks fantastic, that this could be a pretty big Apple Watch cycle.
Considering we're talking about the Apple Watch today, I have some assorted thoughts about the Apple Watch that I would like to share.
Okay.
So I've been wearing an Apple Watch every day for like the last couple of months, maybe a bit longer, because I've been working on some health-related stuff, and the Apple Watch is part of making it work. It's helping me be accountable for steps and activity, and it's also helping me just like push myself to do some extra stuff, like make some different choices in the essence of trying to fill up my exercise ring or my activity ring or whatever. So I've been wearing the watch for that. My biggest complaint with the watch is the design, like the design of the watch itself and the design of the watch faces. The watch faces, I feel like this will be a thing that I will never be happy with. I'm never going to be happy with the watch faces because I have just issues with, like, I feel like they're both not watchy enough and not computery enough, depending on what I want, right? Like, I never feel like I'm going to be happy with that. I honestly think the only way to solve this problem is for Apple to let other people design watch faces. I feel like it's the only way that I'm ever going to be happy, because then you'll have way more choice. I think that watch face design shouldn't be constrained just to Apple. Like, I genuinely believe this. This is not an original thought, but I don't buy, like, I would never buy just one company's watches if I was buying real watches, because I want to choose the designs that I like. And they may be in a design period. Say, if you choose, like, I don't own a Rolex, but I'll just say Rolex. I don't really like Rolexes personally, but I've just picked Rolex because it's a watch brand that people know. If Rolex are in they've been designing watches for like a couple of years and they've gone into a design pattern that I'm not a fan of, I won't keep buying Rolexes. I will go and look at what else is available on the market, right? Like, maybe I go and look at Omega instead, right? With Apple, there's kind of nothing you can do if you want an Apple Watch. Mm-hmm. So I honestly think for me to be happy with watch face design, it has to come with third parties designing those watch faces as well, because then lots more people's point of view can be expressed in this design area than what Apple is doing. So that's that. But then just the physical design of the watch I'm unhappy with, but I already spoke about that. There's one other thing I wanted to share. It's just like a real frustration for me. So do you use the Apple Watch for workouts?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you use the workout app, Apple's workouts app?
Yes.
Why do I have to see the time to walk thing at the top?
I think you can turn that off.
If you can, please somebody tell me, because I don't know how to get rid of it. This is Apple's part of Fitness Plus. It's time to walk, right? They have these sessions and at the top of the workouts app. I don't want them. I don't need them. And the thing that frustrates me the most about this is the rest of the workout options in the workouts app, they sort themselves based on recency. So, like the things that you do the most or do most often go to the top. Well, except for time to walk, which is always number one. And it infuriates me, because this is like, one of those things where, like, Apple is making my experience worse to try and sell me something that I already pay them for. I'm already a Fitness Plus customer because I'm in the premium Apple One whatever thing. So they don't need to keep showing me this. Like, I can go and find it. Like, I can go and get it if I want that. But I don't need to see the time to walk stuff at the top of the workout app on the Apple Watch constantly. It is not something that I require. So I find it this is one of those things I find it so frustrating, especially because of the way Apple Watch design works. It's basically the entire UI available to me. I have to scroll past it every single time to start a workout. So that is just a frustration I want to share. If somebody knows how to get rid of this on the Apple Watch, please tell me. I don't know how to get rid of it, and it's driving me mad.
Yeah, I was trying to scroll through. Maybe I made that up.
I think you may have made that up, because I have spent a lot of time. Swipe left to delete it on the watch, says Alex.
No.
Is that a thing you can do? And then it's just never going to come up again? Let me try. Workout. Oh, it's deleted. Okay, that was it. That is so stupid. Thank you, Alex. My God. Why did I do this?
Especially if you already paid for
annoying. It's like, just let me get it in the activity app. I don't know why it's in the workout app. Alex, thank you so much. You have just made my life better. Because Apple was trying to make it more annoying, because for some reason they wanted me to listen to Naomi Campbell as I walk around, and I don't really know why, because I don't do this stuff. Like, I don't take these outside walks, and because you know what I'll do? I'll listen to a podcast of my own choosing by people that I genuinely do care about, as opposed to random celebrities like telling me a story because they got paid to tell me a story.
Well, some personal news. I've been contacted by Apple to do a Walking with Steven, but I guess you won't listen.
No, I won't listen to it because you've sold out.
Podcab is not going to pay for itself.
That's true. Well, Calendar's paid for that. Big money hacket. But okay, so I will remove 50% of my complaint because it is removable. But the point that I've had to deal with it all this time because there isn't an obvious way to get rid of it was really annoying for me. So luckily, Alex is better than Apple UI design because I should have just been offered the ability to make it show rather than it being pushed in my face, in my opinion.
Apple likes to be pushy about its services and then hide all of its controls now. So you wandered into the perfect storm. So are you wearing it every day? Just days you work out?
Nope, every day.
Every day? Yeah, me too.
Not particularly happy about it, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, I went about a year, or maybe less than a year, maybe like 9 months without it, and put it back on, and I enjoy the other stuff beyond the fitness stuff too. So I think I'm in the market. If there's a flat-sided Apple Watch, get that, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm very keen to have a brighter always-on display.
Yes,
which was something that came with the previous
6
model, the 6. I like the always-on display. I think it was a necessary, needed thing. The thing that I'm really like just bummed out about is I really want the ceramic one. I want a ceramic one, and I'm not convinced that they will make a ceramic one. But that's what I want. I don't want any of the metal finishes that Apple make. I don't want any of the colored ones. And so I don't really want just like one of their metal finishes, but I figure it's probably all I'm going to have available to me. Unless they keep the cadence up.
Yeah.
Of every couple of years going back to ceramic. But I really like the white ceramic. It's my favorite design that they've ever done on the Apple Watch. I'm not going to buy a green one. I'm not going to buy a blue one. I don't really understand. Like, for me personally, I would never buy a colored Apple Watch like that. It's got to be neutral. Like, I consider white to go with everything, basically. It would be weird, I think, for me to want to wear a red watch every single day with everything that I own. Clothes-wise, it'd be peculiar.
I tend to agree, and I've seen the red one in person. I like the way that it looks, but
they look fantastic.
I wouldn't want to do it every day for the reasons you said. I mean,
yeah,
I've either always done. Well, I've done stainless steel, I've done the dark aluminum, and I've done the titanium, and I'll stay within those lanes.
It's most likely I'd probably end up going with one of the dark colored ones, if they don't offer ceramic. And I would probably get ceramic in whatever they... Like, if they didn't do white ceramic and they did, like, a gray ceramic or whatever, I'd probably go back to that. I also just really like the way that the ceramic Apple Watch feels. It's a good balance of weight and stuff. I find it very comfortable. Mm-hmm. And it's also... It looks good with the sport band. When if I had a metal one, I wouldn't wear a sport band. So then we got to go back into the band pool again.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I mean, I've worn the stainless steel.
I know. Like, lots of people do. I'm just talking about, like, for me personally, like, if I'm going to have a metal Apple Watch, then I'm probably also going to want to get a metal band for it, or a leather band. Then I got to get different bands when I work. Oh, God. And I'm really not into the loops.
Oh, yeah. I'm not either.
I don't want that.
I know people like them. I don't really care for them personally.
More than anything, like more than any other product that they make. I mean, they said it at the time as a selling point. It is the most personal product, which I actually do applaud them for not changing the Apple Watch band connectors.
Oh yeah,
like they got to resist that as long as is actually possible. Like maybe forever. Like don't ever change the connector because you encourage people to build up this collection of stuff.
In a way, it's even worse than like changing the connector on the iPhone or something.
Oh yeah, because it's just a cable. You get new ones,
Yeah, but if you got 18 watch bands over the course of 6 years, it's not fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well I think that's it. If you want to find more about the stuff we spoke about, head on over to the show notes, relay.fm/connected/361. Please go donate to St. Jude. We'll be talking about St. Jude all month. That is stjude.org/relay. And keep Friday, September 17th on your calendar open for the 3rd annual podcast-a-thon. If you'd like to find Myke online, you can do that. He is on Twitter as IMYKE. And Myke and I will be streaming together on Friday. So look out for that disaster coming your way. Federico is off working on his review, but you can find him, of course, on Twitter at Viticci, Viticci, and he's the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. You can find me on Twitter as ISMH and my writing at 512pixels.net. Myke, until next time, say goodbye.
Cheerio.
Bye, y'all.